I'm here to talk about the automation of the news business. I believe that this advance is not only inevitable, but a necessary part of a trustworthy and independent press in the modern world, without which this cornerstone of civil society is at risk. I say to you that we must not fear the rise of the robots in this arena if we are to protect the open society. To start off, good afternoon, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. This is my first time in Dubai, and it is an absolute privilege to be a part of this vibrant dialogue in this extraordinary city.
In the 1980s, when I sort of discovered this emergent new type of element inside existing cities, which I then called the global city, it was a period of profound transformations. But transformations in cities are always happening. Sometimes they are routine transformations. Other times they are radical transformations. It's not easy to disentangle that. It's not self-evident to see, is it simply a routine transformation or is something really changed?
Today's healthcare is completely broken. In fact, the term healthcare should not be used for today's healthcare model. Today's healthcare model is really disease management. It's sort of a symptoms management. It's not healthcare. There is no taking care of health.
We still think of the world in terms of national sovereignty, and I think this has to change. I think what we need are new mental maps. The world has changed, but the basic units of international affairs haven't. And I think we need to see the world now through the lens of cities, not nation states. And this makes sense when you think about it. We're an urban species. We're Homo urbanus.
And now we have a new oracle, and its name is Big Data. And it has other names too, like Watson, like deep learning or neural nets, whatever you want to call it. And that's because we live in the age of data-driven decision making. And these are the kind of questions we can ask of our oracle now, like what is the most efficient way to ship a phone from China to New Zealand? Or what are the chances that my child might be born with a genetic disorder? Or what percentage of our aging population will have heart disease? And governments all around the world are using this oracle or different forms of it.
Today, the largest supercomputer in the world is about 100 million times faster than that Cray computer that came out in 1985. And it costs about $200 million.
What can we do with different sectors to work in the future? Because this is not just about one tech platform or even just the government or even just civil society. We really get better effects when we start strategically working together.
But the most successful companies use the receptors and intelligence to not only inform their product, but to understand their customer behaviors and their brand, but also to inform a way and establish a new kind of dialogue with their audience. And so this is an example of a solution where the feedback loop is very critical. What we found is there's a shift today from a mono-channel, from a omni-channel strategy, with many retailers and people are talking about, to now a more mono-channel strategy. The idea that we are all present physically and digitally simultaneously. And it's more important when we look at younger generations, particularly Gen Z, who are digital natives, who have grown up with technology. We ultimately have the ability to connect with them simultaneously, both physically and digitally, in a much more powerful way than when we think of them as separate channels.
I, for one, and I don't think my colleagues at Bloomberg, or for that matter, my colleagues elsewhere, are particularly unnerved by the use of machines and technology in aiding reporting today.
In aiding, not replacing.
Well, we're not as that wonderful presentation showed. We're not quite where we could say the human is no longer necessary. We still have a long way to go before we get to that point. And I'm not sure, by the way, when you could possibly get to that.